Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today. Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about what are the ramifications. What is the effect, the practical effect, the effect on the street, if you like, of mass affirmative action, mass race gender quotas. Now, because there's so much emphasis on equity, but only in the glamorous jobs, the office jobs, the nice air conditioned office jobs, the downtown jobs, these sorts of things, wherever there's prestige or glory or a better salary or anything, that's where the emphasis on affirmative action is. No one's talking about let's have race gender quotas for people who clean out the sewers. No one's looking for race gender quotas for people that wash the windows on the skyscrapers. So if it's no one, people that dig holes in the road or something, no one's asking for or demanding race, gender, equity, and so on. There, this is all. It's only the prestigious jobs, so it's boards of directors and heads of societies and museum heads, things like that. So only if it's got some sort of power or some sort of prestige associated with it. Now, because of that, and because of this, and it's only happening in the West, because of this need to promote people based not on merit, but on whether they're black lesbians or not, that this has changed, had quite a substantial change in the sort of people that you find in all sorts of roles. Now, again, having a share in a business and having to go out and do the hard yards sometimes and go to the meetings and discuss potentially complex issues with management, I'm finding they're as almost as every day goes by, there are fewer and fewer people who are capable of understanding what's being talked about or what needs to be done or how it should be done, what's the best way of doing it, what's the most efficient way, and so on. And this can be something simple like delivering a service that should only take a week. But because the dramas are endless, and because we're constantly having to deal with people that are not qualified, they shouldn't be anywhere near the sort of jobs that they're doing, but they're there because, again, they're the proverbial black lesbian, that things are taking many times longer than they need to, and you're having to deal with very insecure, chip-on-shoulder people. So I just want to talk about what are the ramifications of that. Now, on that side of affirmative action is again, the proverbial black lesbian. On the other side of affirmative action is low IQ people they could be white, could be anybody. Low IQ people being who never made it out of junior high school and now going through senior high school and then going to university, and they're being radicalized, particularly through senior high school and university. They're being radicalized and they're studying soft courses, and they're primarily women. So you're looking at diversity, equity, inclusion departments, HR people, this sort of thing. And they're still predominantly white, actually, but nearly all female. You'd be lucky to find, you'll find some men in there, but they're gay men that simp and lisp and almost roll over and prostrate themselves in front of the big butch type lesbian or something. But you constantly come across women who are young women who have been radicalized to the nth degree. Their only work experience, if you can call it work, has been waving placards to go to climate change demonstrations, or they've been convinced through their HR course or their gender studies course or whatever that we're surrounded by Nazis, and Nazis are about to take it. Nazis are everywhere, and only they in their gender studies course they're the minority fighting back against the Nazis. They've got this terrible view of the world that pretty much any straight white male over the age of 45 is Hitler. And if you're a high achieving, sort of self-assured, confident straight white male, then you're triple Hitler on double steroids. They've got this twisted, perverse view that's been inculcated into, they've been indoctrinated into these views. And so how do you deal with people like that? So, we walk into the room of straight white males in our 50s, all of us having achieved things in our own right in the business sector and having had to be accountable and responsible for it, by the way. Having been, well, in my case at least, beaten up severely by boards of directors. Hey, Billy Bob, why didn't you get this result? What's wrong? Billy Bob, can we go over that again? Tell us why you didn't. And I've had to go through all that stuff and had to deliver results in a results-based environment and pass exams by actually passing them, not because I'm a black lesbian. So I've come through that environment and a merit-based environment. So you're sitting down in front of someone who didn't do anything to get that job, and who has no one, who's a low IQ, who's an affirmative action high, and it is very draining to deal with people like that. Not only because they're stupid, but because their heart rate goes up to 10 times what it should be. They're intimidated and frightened and made, they feel insecure. When they see the real thing in front of them, they almost have a panic attack. They can live in a fantasy world where everyone around them's an affirmative action hire, and they all pretend to be doing things, and they attend their little meetings, and they just play house, and like children in a sand pit, they just play all day. But no one actually has to do anything. They're just playing this silly game, and they may actually manage during the course of the day to do something worthwhile. Maybe the black lesbian receptionist still has to answer the phone, for example. So anyway, dealing with these people is very hard. Now, it takes a lot of patience, and it takes it's almost not worth. Excuse me. It's almost not worth us going to some of these meetings. And if we know in advance that we've got to meet the 19-year-old black lesbian from HR or has something to do with it, then we find somebody young from our side to go and do that, because we know this person doesn't deserve the job they're in, and they're horribly insecure, absolutely terrible chip on the shoulder. And yet their view isn't that they're incompetent. It's just that everyone else is a Nazi. That's the way they've been encouraged and indoctrinated to see the world. So I just wanted to talk about, what's the effect when everybody, or not everybody, but many people are have been over promoted, and we've got a situation of mass over promotion along the lines that we've never seen. Not that it never ever happened. There was still always going to be the chairman's nephew, useless, wasteful nephew that would be given a job. That still, those things still happened, and sometimes people would get into roles that they weren't suited for or capable of, or they were just lazy or stupid, or all of the above. Those things still happened. It wasn't a perfect world before, but we've gone now several steps beyond just the average, if you like, of incompetence that used to be around to really now where because of affirmative action, you've got really all the middle management, upper middle management is stacked full of these affirmative action appointments, and every day goes by, there's more and more of them, and this is causing a situation where you've got these very, very insecure people, and they need respect, especially where they come from other cultures, India and China. Being respected for your station and position and so on is very important to these people. Even if they're born in Australia or the West, they still have this hangover from their own culture, and given they're not integrating and they're hanging around in their own Chinese or Indian societies, they've still got this quite strongly in there. So they need this respect. They want you to prostrate yourself before them. You have to make them feel powerful. You have to make them feel like they're big and they're powerful and they're tough and they're all conquering and they're covered in glory and they're the general leading the army on the white horse with the armor. They need to have this sense of power and respect. You better show you. Now, if you're a high performing straight white male, you can't just give them respect. you have to give them double, triple, quadruple respect. So you have to deliver a much higher level of deference and respect and groveling to them than you would otherwise, or that anyone else would have to. So this has an effect of not only putting incompetent people in managerial supervisory roles, even if they don't actually have much power to make any decisions, they have the power to say no. They have the power to prevent things, slow things down, slow walk things. They have that power, and they can exercise those powers without necessarily it being noticed. And because their bosses are probably affirmative action hires as well, or lower quality, white people, then they're able to get away with this for quite some time, maybe not even get noticed. And this is also an issue in terms of, and if you look at the total business sector, or anything, it could be government sector, academia, where you've got this sort of applying almost universally across the whole spectrum, then nothing can get done. Things aren't getting done. If things are getting done, it's by accident or default rather than by the design of people who are focused on getting these things done. Now, on the other side of it, what about at the executive level of, the C level or the executive level of management? Well, a lot of this is now window dressing with, again, the proverbial black lesbian being given these jobs. Every day I look in the business press here and associate the various associations and councils and various bodies in Australia, so some of which pay quite well. And now if you every time I see an announcement now, it's going to be an Asian or an Indian or a black lesbian or something like that. If it is a white guy, then it'll be a gay guy, and so on. So there's this window dressing at the top level. Now, as soon as you see that window dressing, and the real decisions are being made somewhere else. The big, the Black Rocks and the big financial firms are really pulling the strings, and everyone else is just a puppet. But the thing is, these businesses and so on still have to function in some way, deliver their services and so on. And sure, they might have big juicy government contracts and all this sort of stuff and cartel pricing power, but there's still a certain amount of things you have to get done. Someone still has to pay for the electricity bill, or someone still has to arrange for the cleaners to come in. There still is things that need to be done, and even this seems to be beyond them. So I just want to what it's done is, as far as I can tell at least, and I'd be interested in seeing your comments below, is that it's created a new era of petty insecurity, where these people are demanding petty respect is shown, and the only way they can feel powerful and big and tough and good about themselves is they're employing kids or juniors or other affirmative action people, or I'll hire this illiterate peasant because that'll make me feel powerful, even though I'm only a semi-illiterate peasant. That type of thing. So people are because they've been put into roles and they've been so over-promoted, they're now, in order to feel. And again, this prestige and glory very much part of those cultures that they come from. Not that it doesn't exist in white culture, it does, but not to the extent that it does with them. So they are almost obligated to hire people that are much less qualified than they are. So then you get this knock-on effect that no one knows what the fuck they're doing anymore. And so now they have things like certification checklists and things like that you've been certified as having done this, but even this is shot through with affirmative action. So in order to get firemen, and these sort of people, or the army, or whatever it is, doesn't matter. The standards are lowered again to get kids into university. If you're the proverbial black lesbian, you only need to get 0 in your examinations, and you can still be waved through and get a place in university. There's in Australia and some universities it's a strictly applied policy. None of the lecturers or teachers or professors are allowed to fail any black person. You're just not allowed to. And so this is this again has the effect of lowering the standards. So when the competent straight white male sort of walks in the door, and again, you'd have to probably be over 50 anyway, but who came up through a majority merit-based system. Not only have they been trained to see you as a Nazi, if not Hitler, you also, by just even appearing in the room, you're creating a sense of chip on shoulder insecurity, these inadequacy, because suddenly they see the real thing in front of them and they can't play their fantasy games anymore with all their other affirmative action hires, which comes back to what a number of HR manager type people say, is that we can't afford to hire qualified people anymore. We can hire certified people, we can hire ticker box type, we can hire them, but we can't hire the real deal, because that makes all these affirmative action hires feel bad about themselves, and that's disruptive to the activism, if you like, within the organisation. Bear in mind too that anyone under the age of probably 30s, early to mid 30s, has been brought up solely and through the school system, definitely through university, that activism is the thing. All around you are Nazis, all around you are Hitlers, and it is your job to call that out. It is your job to point, go Nazi. It's your job to do. It's your job to run around the street with placards. You're fighting back against Hitler, and that's virtuous. It's good. This makes you a good person. It makes you an important person. It makes you a powerful person. It makes you the sort of person of consequence that counts. And so these people have this view. So when they see the real McCoy, they don't. And these sense of inadequacy and insecurity kick in, chip on shoulder. Then to them, they've been trained. The instant response is Hitler, and that is further diminishing and destroying Western society. I'll be looking forward to seeing your opinions below. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.